smarts and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don J. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for a 2020 action film that released on Netflix, was produced by the Russell brothers and directed by Sam Hargrave. And of course, also, not only is it written by the Russell brothers, it stars one of the Avengers actors. A sequel of it came out this year, but I hadn't seen the first film of this series, so I needed to see the first film first. That film is going to be for none other than 2020's Extraction. Well, I've already said it's directed by, I've already said it's written by, I've already said it stars, so don't need to say that stuff again. But yeah, here we go, because I decided, since I'm not going to watch Mission Impossible 7, I decided to watch Extraction 2 tonight, so I had to watch Extraction 1 first and review it first before I review Extraction 2. So what's the plot? Well, in an underworld of weapons dealers and traffickers, a young boy becomes the pawn in a war between notorious drug lords and trapped by kidnappers inside one of the world's most impregnable cities. His rescue beckons to the unparalleled skill of a mercenary named Tyler Rake. But Rake is a broken man with nothing to lose, harboring a death wish that makes an already dead mission near impossible. So yeah, it was made well. On August 2018, 31st, it was announced that Sam Hargrave would direct DACA from a screenplay by Joe Russo. In addition, Chris Hemsworth was even set to star in the film. In November 2018, the rest of the cast was set. Production began in Abu Dhabi and Mumbai in November 2018, and filming next took place in Barbara and Rajpal, Thailand. When the cast stayed in Nakhon Pathom, principal production ended in March 2019. The film's working title was initially DACA, but it later got changed to Out of the Fire. Before the final title would be revealed to be Extraction on February 2020. The 19th anyways, of that year. The production in Bangladesh was handled by the same team that handled the production of Age of Ultron that was shot in 2014 in Bangladesh. And when it comes to the score of the film, Henry Jackman and Alex Belcher composed the film score and worked together on 21 Bridges, which the Russell brothers also produced the film, and it also starred another Avengers actor that sadly passed on the year this came out. BMG had released the soundtrack, and English indie rock band ALG's In Cool Blood was used in the official trailer. And yeah, so after the film was shot and marketed, this movie would not go to theaters. Well, to make sense, I don't think it would have been able to go to theaters anyway, because we all know what's happened that year. Netflix would go on to release Extraction onto their service on April 24th, 2020. And it received about mixed reviews from critics, but it became the most watched original film in Netflix's history with over 99 million views during the first 4 weeks. So, of course, a sequel was released last month, and it had the main cast returning. This isn't going to be that review, though. This is going to be for the first film. So, as for my reaction to this movie, well, let me just say first, I never saw the movie when it first released, but I did finally to get around to watching this movie recently, and I will say, I honestly really do enjoy this movie, and I think it's one of Netflix's best films they have released. And it's crazy to think this was released during the first lockdown. Can't believe I never noticed this movie at all. Can't believe I never watched this during isolation. Like John Wick had successfully upped the game for action films, Extraction, on the other hand, excels it in its action set pieces. You got the long, gorgeous takes with brutally grounded fight scenes, showcasing the vicious nature of warfare. Hemsworth carries this entire film on his shoulders and has the daunting task of elevating the paper-thin narrative to an acceptable level. Thankfully, he succeeds. Well, And this shows Chris Hemsworth can actually act very well. In a lot of films, Chris Hemsworth actually really can act. Films like Rush are all proof of that, and a few other films that are not Marvel related, they actually really can act. When he is working with the right writers and the good directors, he really can pull off a wonderful performance. Right here. In this film, he really proves it. Like John Wick before him, seeing Hemsworth kicking ass with an amazingly choreographed fight scenes is exhilarating. This film is unapologetically honest in its depiction of violence and its consequences. It doesn't shy away. It doesn't try to play it safe. It actually decides to go honest with it. Now, I honestly think Hemsworth is better in this Extraction movie already, more than as Thor. I enjoy his performance as Thor, but his performance in this movie really shines, especially whenever it's a film not being done by a hack studio nowadays. And Tyler Rake could literally only be played by one and only Chris Hemsworth. The actor not only emotes well with his expression, but it's fantabulous with his hand combat and action stunts. And Randeep Hooda is decent when it brings in a spark once he enters the scenes, and Rutger Jawai and Goldsiving Farhani are definitely good in their parts, while Pankaj Tripathi has just about one scene in this movie. And when it comes to the whole plot of the movie, the plot is honestly quite simple. It's mercenary soldiers who are tasked to save a kidnapped son of a drug lord. The mission looks like it will run smoothly, but they find out they were betrayed, and they're now surrounded in a city full of enemies, and our protagonists and the kid have to survive and find their way out. As indicated, the story is propped up by its action. It contains one of the best long takes committed to an action film, and the scene looks as complicated technically as it is viscerally intense. Directed by stuntman Sam Hargrave, he directs it efficiently that bellies the filmmaking experience, and delivering a furious amount of John Wick-inspired violence that is certain to get the adrenaline going. And I really like the camera work here. The way they shoot close to the main character makes us feel like we're included in the action. It feels like this happened just beside us. Like we're not, sometimes, not all people are moviegoers here. We're not just moviegoers watching a film. We actually feel like we're witnesses in all these scenes. And it just surprised, this movie even really surprised me with just how violent it was willing to be at times. Especially in certain scenes involving children. Like one of the scenes at the beginning has literally a child getting thrown off the roof to his death, even. Like a couple times I even thought, they're not going to really do that, are they? No, they really, sure enough, they did. And it's a very serious film as well. There was very little humor here. In fact, I don't think there's like any comedy in this movie at all. Here. No humor whatsoever makes an appearance in this movie. Like, back to Hemsworth's performance, like, you guys know Ryan Reynolds in Smoking Aces, where he didn't have any comedy to his character, and he was a straight-up serious character. It was back in the times when he wasn't just trying to be Deadpool all the time. That's kind of the same I can say for Chris Hemsworth in this Extraction franchise. I kind of wish he would try to do more roles like this. A lot more. He needs to do more serious roles like this. Both him and Reynolds need to stick to more serious roles. And go back to these kind of movies. The action is top notch here a lot of times. Like the fighting sequences are brutal. You got from hand-to-hand combat, gunfighting, and sniper fighting are all well executed. One guy's head and gets impaled on some spikes here. The body count in this movie is surprisingly really high. The action scenes are definitely to look for, they're nicely directed, and the car chase scene is definitely the best because it immerses the audience as a third-person event, and the real action sequences between characters give it an authentic and grounded feel. And how does the movie start? Well, the movie starts with a bang because Tyler Rake goes all the possible way the moment rescue operations initiates. Tyler himself, he faces these goons where he fights with knives and guns, and it's brilliantly choreographed, followed by an eye-popping car chase scene as Tyler drives through the busy streets of Dhaka. And I definitely would highlight that this probably is definitely one of the best car chase scenes in cinema, with an outstanding camera look. It's definitely crazy how a Netflix action car chase is better than a lot of car chases in actual movie theater released action films today. Most of them anyways. And a street fight between Randeep Hooda is another spectacular treat to watch as both our actors do well in the hand combat. If you think this is enough, that's not all, guys, because there's a high-octane climax scene with jaw-dropping stunts, and the movie traverses through a wafer-thin plot, and yet manages to keep you on the edge of the seat with some of the best stunts. The screenplay does falter in a few places, but I would definitely not complain because Extraction does keep me glued to the screen for an hour and 56 minutes, surprisingly. Like, this is a movie for people who love action films and should be respected as each and every choreography is worth clapping for. The movie goes well with electrifying background score. The art direction is superb, while cinematography is wonderful and during the action scenes. And the writing by Joe Russo is engaging and does not let blink your eye for a minute. And Joe Russo's screenplay draws from this graphic novel that he once co-authored, which was Collide, which I had not read about, or never read at all. So I can't really say much about that here. And driven by the clear intention of cashing in on violence, Russo didn't bother to check much of the subcontinent's social and cultural nuances. And the thing is, though, other than it simply does not look like Dhaka, and never mind the deliberately done Bengali hoardings and occasional Bengali lines and thrown in here. And clearly, like stunt director turned film director Sam Hargrave, the director of this movie, gives more attention to a highlighted 12-minute action sequence filmed on Hemsworth than storytelling details here. Like, there's not really much story except for the simple plot in this movie. The irony, though, is the particular sequence brings back instant recall of the infamous Parker chase from Casino Royale. Even though that movie was technically released about 17 years ago, it would still seem the hands-down winner in this stream of action sequences even today. And the plot is even basic too, because Ovi, the teenage son of it, we all know the plot of the film here, and it's really simple here. It's not like overly complicated. No, it's just a simple plot. A mercenary has to rescue a teen kid from drug dealers. As simple as that. There's no random plot twists. There's no random turns at last minute. No, it's just simply like that. Extraction is sketchy in its intent and execution. The drama operates on a rebellious kidnapping that is never explained. It's almost like Joe Russo, before writing the screenplay, saw too many of those Hindi action dramas of the 80s and 90s where you normally threw logic behind while setting up the heroes of Betrayal Casino. It's an action film, but it doesn't condescend the viewer. It's intelligent enough to have some good humor interspersed between the mayhem. I mean, there's once again, like, it's not like overly forced kind of humor. No. It's tiny glimpses, and it's not really noticeable. And indeed, Tyler, the hero of this movie, goes places where even Thor probably wouldn't imagine. In the domain of the hardcore commercial Bollywood, he acquires infiltrated swag as he bashes up a dozen baddies single-handedly, and spectacular goes about with his mission. And he's definitely lonely. And you see he's lonely too in the beginning when we first meet him. Like most broody men of action normally are, up until he meets this teen kid that he has to rescue. And the combat scenes are all flat out great. They involve a camera in close pursuit of the antagonists, and we feel they are racing up those steps, leaping from rooftop to rooftop along with the combatants. And the fight appears to be the real thing and not a choreographed piece of action. And on the downside, though, when it comes to the John Wick movies, his adversaries die by hundreds. But it's okay because nothing in that film or this film feel particularly true to life. And when it does come to the ending of the movie ends, has a pretty good ending too. Because in this one, during the finale showdown, Tyler draws attention away from this disguised Saji and Ovi Jr. as the two make their way through a bridge checkpoint before falling to cover their escape. Khan and the remaining mercenaries approach from the opposite side of the bridge, as Steve watches from afar with binoculars. In the shooting firefight, Saji was shot and killed by Rashid, was in turn shot and killed by Khan, and wounded from the fight. Tyler now instructs Ovi Jr. to run to Khan's waiting helicopter. As a badly wounded Tyler falls, he's literally shot in the neck by Farhad, but he thankfully manages to see that Ovi Jr. is safe. He peacefully falls into the river. Well, we all know a sequel came out, so he's not dead. Because he comes back in Extraction 2. I've seen the posters for Extraction 2, I know he's back. Because Hemsworth returned for the movie. He's not dead. And Ovi Jr. Khan and the Extraction team escape into Mumbai for safety. And then 8 months later, Khan encounters a safe in a restroom and promptly shoots him to death. And Novi Jr. jumps into his school swimming pool to practice holding his breath, which mirrors the scene where we were introduced to Tyler, where Tyler was in the water holding his breath, introduced chronologically in the film. And he serves to see a blurred vision of a man resembling Tyler watching him. And then the credits roll. But guys, there is a sequel, Tyler's Not Dead. As much as the originals are hit and miss and the sheer amount of content they release being ridiculous, there's no question that Netflix allows a pure filmmaker freedom in this one without the restrictions and interference of Hollywood influence here. The film is allowed to actually make full use of its 18 rating, not have the burden of setting up or continuing a franchise, or even worse, trying to rip off a Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, although generic and cliche in its storytelling, the action and stunt work are an absolute blast to witness and make this a step up from what most of us were probably expecting at the time this came out. And yeah, the film's 2-hour runtime premise may have some filler sequences around the middle section, but the first and third acts are fast-paced and frantic, and throw you right into the situation. The film does exactly what it wants and sets out to deliver. The race against time and constant improvisation, extraction itself made for a consistently engaging watch, and the film does brush over motivations and character backstory, with Tyler slowly relying on a few flashbacks and essentially an exposition interview with the kid he is protecting, so that we can get more of this guy's story. And what the basic premise does allow is to be filled with these brutal, well-choreographed, and creative action. The film delivers some of the best set pieces of the year, with a phenomenal one-take style 15-minute sequence. It goes from car chase, building assault, lorry chase. It's controlled chaos, absolutely. And you can tell this takes many influence from other action films like John Wick, the Raid films. The Raid films I still need to see. I've heard so much about the Raid films, I've heard they're epic. It's definitely excellent to see these films' influence on the choreography. The camera work never is too shaky or quick cutting, so it's easy to follow witness every stab, punch, kick in the bone, crunching, and viscerally gory. The shootout sounds great and intense, but it ends in bloody results, especially the finale sequence. Nevertheless, regardless, whatever I say, the action always steals the show. The Russells help Sam Hargrave in bringing them their marvels as an experience of having a balanced dozen of characters at the time, or same time, the impressive choreography elevates the film a lot. Here, it's generally a work of art. However, this movie, I will agree, has bad qualities. Like, while the story of Extraction is simple, here, it's not really anything home to write about. The film offers nothing new from the kidnap and rescue genre, but it's a great deal of its appeal comes from the action rather than the story. And I think the movie does get a little weaker towards the second act because it slows down a bit too much for my taste. And the third act does feel a little too long because usually people are getting shot all over the place. There doesn't seem to be much plot development, and the movie does open with what happens here on the bridge, so there's no intriguing behind what's going to happen. But despite those nitpicks, I think Extraction is still a good action film that's worth a watch. So in the end, Extraction is definitely what I would call worth a watch for sure. I would definitely say worth a buy, but it's a Netflix movie, so it's never getting a DVD release, sadly. Some Netflix films do get DVD releases, but not all of them. But this is just a Netflix film, so it's just going to be worth a watch. And it's also a worth a watch for sure for Hemsworth fans that want to see him in an actually serious role, and if they're tired of seeing him in comedic, unfunny Thor films, like the last one we got. And they want to see a serious role. Anyways, that's it for my review of Extraction. If you're wondering how I'm going to rank Extraction, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you love gritty action and Hemsworth combined, then you will totally get a kick out of this here, because this is worth a watch, no doubt. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Extraction, I'm going to give Extraction an 8 out of 10. There we go. There wraps up my review for Extraction. So tonight I'm going to watch Extraction 2, and then I'm going to review it. Yeah, I'm going to keep... Well, I know this review's kind of posted Saturday morning, but I filmed this Friday afternoon when I got back from work, so I'm going to watch Extraction 2 tonight, and then I'm probably going to review that next week. Yeah, but can't wait to watch the second one tonight. I've heard it's better, so I'm interested to see how this goes. But Until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.